Hey, what's up, everybody? Today we're diving into a topic that's bound to stir some conversation: human sexuality. Now, we've all heard the saying, sex is natural, it's healthy. And yeah, sure it is. But what happens when it goes too far? What if engaging with too many people being overly sexual actually messes with your mental health? And spoiler alert, it can. It's especially intense for women because their hormones are on a whole different playing field. But guess what? Guys aren't completely off the hook either. So buckle up. We're talking about how too much of a good thing might be a recipe for mental chaos. Welcome to Everyday Wellness, your go-to source for health and wellness. Let's get into today's topic. All right, so let's break this down. Human sexuality is one of those things that's fascinating. It's biological, it's psychological, and it's social. But here's the thing. There's a fine line between healthy sexuality and something that can start messing with your head. And it's not just about morality or what society tells you is right or wrong. It's about your brain chemistry, your hormones, and how your body actually reacts when you're constantly engaging in sexual relationships with multiple people. Let's talk about the science for a minute. Every time you have sex, your brain releases chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin. These are the feel-good hormones, right? They make you feel connected. They make you feel satisfied. But here's the catch: when you engage in sex with multiple partners over and over, you might be throwing your system out of balance. For women, it's even more intense because oxytocin, the bonding hormone, can create these deep emotional connections that sometimes aren't even in line with how you actually feel about the person. It's like your brain is bonding with someone you're not necessarily emotionally invested in. And let's be real, sex is a powerful experience. It connects you to someone on a really deep level, whether you want to admit it or not. It's not just physical. That's why for some people, especially women engaging with multiple partners, starts to mess with their emotions. The oxytocin is doing its job, making connections, making bonds. And when those bonds are broken repeatedly, that's where emotional distress can kick in. Now, for women, this hormonal roller coaster is on another level. Estrogen, progesterone, oxytocin, it's all cycling through their system. After sex, especially if it's frequent and with different partners, women might start to feel disconnected or experience emotional whiplash. One day they're feeling on top of the world, the next they're emotionally wiped out. And it's not because they're weak or can't handle casual sex, it's just biology doing its thing. And look, I know we live in a culture that's all about sexual freedom, and I'm all for people doing whatever makes them happy. But if we're not careful, if we ignore the mental and emotional side effects, we might be doing more harm than good. It's not just about free love, it's about knowing how your body and mind react to sexual experiences and managing that. Now let's flip it over to the guys. Most people think, oh, men are fine. They can have sex without getting emotionally attached, right? Well, that's not entirely true. Yes, men are wired a bit differently when it comes to sex. Testosterone drives their libido, and they don't have the same oxytocin flood that women do after sex. But here's where it gets interesting. Some guys are just as susceptible to the emotional fallout as women. There are plenty of men who experience this same sense of disconnection or dissatisfaction after casual sex. And here's why: for some men, sex becomes a way of validating themselves. If you're constantly chasing after sexual experiences to feel good about yourself or to escape from something else, eventually it's going to backfire. You're gonna feel empty. It's like any addiction, short-term highs, but long-term consequences. And that can mess with your mental health. Big time. So here's the kicker: whether you're male or female, being overly sexual, especially with multiple partners, can start to create a sense of emotional disconnect. It's like you're constantly giving a piece of yourself away without getting anything back. And that takes a toll. Your brain gets wired to seek out the next dopamine, hit the next sexual encounter, and before you know it, it's less about connection and more about chasing that high. And that's where the mental strain comes in. Anxiety, depression, feelings of emptiness, they're all part of this vicious cycle. For some people, the more they engage in casual sex, the more they feel detached from themselves and others. It becomes harder to form meaningful relationships because your brain is so used to temporary, fleeting connections. And that, my friends, is a recipe for mental health disaster. Let's get real about the